Hey guys, welcome to Unexplored Frontiers, where we explore the most fascinating developments around the globe. The Centers for Disease Control has been issuing warnings about deadly diseases transmitted by tiny insects. But sloth fever stood out the most. So what's sloth fever? And why is it making quite the wave on social media? Stay tuned because in this video, we'll break down everything you need to know about the deadly virus and how it was first discovered. Without further ado, let's jump right in. The sloth fever, or Oropouche virus, as it is popularly known, was first discovered in Central and South America. While most people would assume that it was named sloth fever because it was first discovered in sloths, this isn't the whole story behind it. The sloth fever was first discovered among howler monkeys, but it was later found in a pale-throated sloth in 1960. And since we already have a virus known as monkeypox, they weren't about to call it the howler monkeypox. So they decided to go with the next best thing. Well, hold on for a second. If it was only found in animals, then what about all the ruckus? Well, it turns out that sloth fever doesn't just affect animals. It can also affect humans. Sloth fever is usually spread by tiny mosquitoes and other biting insects, and it was first discovered in the Amazon. However, the virus has slowly found its way into cities over the past few decades. People who contract the virus often show symptoms of fever, chills, headaches, muscle and joint pain, a rash, and light sensitivity. Several people tested positive for the Oropouche virus in regions such as Brazil, Peru, Cuba, New York, Florida, Germany, and Italy. And according to media outlets, it's now making its way to Europe. While no deaths have been reported in the US, it's causing a lot of concern, especially in areas with a higher number of tourists per day. Just recently, 2 deaths were reported in Europe. Scientists are now showing concern that the sloth fever might actually lead to an epidemic, the likes of which were experienced with coronavirus, although God forbid that happens. Unfortunately, no cure has been found for sloth fever, which makes it even deadlier. Sloth fever is slowly becoming more than a teensy little virus that couldn't possibly do any serious damage, as the Centers for Disease Control has now suggested that areas with infected people in the United States should be quarantined. Certain people are more at risk than others. Travelers heading to affected regions are the most vulnerable, but so are pregnant women and people with existing health problems, like heart disease. For these groups, the virus could lead to more severe complications, similar to what we saw with the Zika virus. The primary reason why sloth fever has been causing a lot of concern, especially among pregnant women, is because 3 pregnant women were said to have contracted sloth fever in Europe eventually had stillbirths. It has also led to infections in some babies after birth. Regions with naturally warm or temperate climates have also witnessed a large outbreak of this disease, mainly because areas with tropical climates, such as Singapore, Thailand, Brazil, and Peru, often provide a much more conducive environment for mosquitoes. This would explain the sharp spike in sloth fever outbreaks, particularly in Singapore and Thailand, which tourists frequently visit. Now that we're aware of just how the virus can be spread and the people who are most likely to contract it, how can we protect ourselves from the sloth fever? Preventing sloth fever isn't too complicated. The best way to avoid infection is to stay away from areas with standing water, which is where mosquitoes and most other biting insects like to hang out. If you live or are visiting an outbreak zone, wear protective clothing and clean up any standing water around your home. You could also make use of mosquito nets or rub mosquito repellent cream on your body and that of your children if you have any. People who are getting blood transfusions should also ensure that the blood is coming from a trusted and non-infective source. Scientists are still studying this virus, and they're looking into whether it might cause more severe conditions like encephalitis, or serious brain inflammation, or complications in pregnant women. On the other hand, scientists are more concerned about how climate change has been making things worse for creating more environments where midges and mosquitoes thrive, meaning that the sloth fever could spread its reaches to more places in the future. With international travel on the rise, it's easier than ever for diseases like sloth fever to spread worldwide. In the US, local health departments, especially in places like Florida, which are often flooded with busy tourists, are closely monitoring the situation. Strategies are also being discussed to ensure that the virus doesn't get out of hand. You might be wondering how sloth fever compares to other viruses, like dengue, Zika, chikungunya. All of these are spread by insects. And while sloth fever hasn't caused as much damage as some of these diseases, or at least not yet, it shares many of the same risks, especially for pregnant women and people with pre-existing conditions. That's the scoop on sloth fever, folks. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to Unexplored Frontiers for more content like this. Have a great day and stay healthy.